So, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to our next tape concerning the tango. But first, as we did with the waltz, we thought you might like to know a little of the tango origins. It was introduced from Spain to Argentina in the 18th century, and in 1912 the tango came to France and England in various modified forms and was part of the fashion of the 1920s. The tango music has strong rhythmical accents because of its Negroid African origins. And the dance went to Spanish America during the 18th century, and the music is part of the Spanish-American development. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today the kind of tango we dance as competitive ballroom dancers is considerably different to the Argentine tango. We have Germanic mannerisms in our actions, and so it has moved away from its origins quite a little bit. So now I'm going to lead you on to John to give you the identification of the tango today.
Well, we come on to our first main heading, which is identification. Identification of the tango dance. Tango should portray a sense of drama. It should have atmosphere and sophistication. Because of its Spanish-American background, it should have many contrasting rhythmical changes. The items under discussion for this videotape will be 1, the usage of the legs and feet. 2, hold and body position. 3, tango energy. Where does it come from? How can it be achieved? 4, the atmosphere of tango, split into music and styling. First of all, I would like to discuss these 4 aspects relative to the foundation figures of tango, the classical figures of tango. The figures under discussion will be the walks, the habanera change, the progressive link, the promenade link, and the chase. But first of all, I'd like to take the most important figure, the walks. That was my interpretation of the tango walks. A little expression that I have when I'm teaching, what I'd like to say to the students is that tango character comes from the walk. Tango is the walks. No walks, no tango. Moving on to the walks, I'd like to first of all express and describe the usage of the legs and the usage of the feet. First of all, if I get into dance position here, I'm actually in full dance position. Now what must happen from here? From the standing foot, which is the right foot in this case, I'm compressing my standing leg, I'm squeezing my knees to position my center in between my feet when I've taken the first step. So I feel my center is held in between my feet. I've got foot pressure on my front foot, which is my left. Now from here, I'm feeling from my thigh, I'm actually pulling my center onto the foot. From this position, I'm using standing leg to strike with the new foot, again in between the feet, and then, of course, I'm pulling over, putting poise perfectly positioned centrally over the foot. And the process continues depending on your desire and quantity of walks. A feature that I see many times in students, which I believe not to be good, is the continuous pushing action. Continuous pushing, I believe is not to be a good idea because it includes a rush type of feeling within the tango. I feel a good description for this is to feel that you're driving and collecting the weight. You're driving it and collecting. So you've got a stealthily dramatic walk across the floor. Now, I'd like to move on to my second aspect relative to the hold and the body position. Now from here, relative to the two walks, the actual hold, once we've settled our weight, will be, the right hand will be level with the center of gravity, more of a dramatic shape from here. You should feel that the arm is completely circular, and from this position here, the left arm goes into position, a little bit more angular, and the hand slightly in towards the head. If you'll notice, the arms are slightly out of balance to each other. In the swing dances from here, we have a balance from the right arm to the left arm. So we have a balance of arms because we want to swing and sway and being able to rotate. Because of the lack of swing, sway and rise and fall in tango, which of course you're all very aware of, we can have here the right arm position connected to the lady's center and of course connected to the man's center, and the left arm in position, because the energy of a tango comes from the turn. The energy comes from the turn. In the swing dances, we have many other opportunities. We have a driving action, we have sway, we can have shoulder swing. There's many opportunities to get the energy. Continuing on with the hold and body position relative to tango, I'd like to discuss the two items of posture and poise. First of all, posture. We're all aware that we have 4 blocks of weight: the head, the shoulders, the rib cage and the hips, and they must have their vertical center. Poise, to differentiate between posture and poise, is the pitch of the body across the feet. If I illustrate with my hand, if my hand was my foot and this is my vertical center, it's the pitch of the body. It's nothing to do with the blocks of weight being out of line. It's the pitch of the body across the feet. For example, if I have my perfect posture, head over shoulders, over rib cage, over hips, I can still have this posture correct, but the pitch can be forwards, central or back. In the tango, the pitch should be across the center of the foot, in between the heel and the toe, across the center of the foot. Of course, during movement, the pitch of the body will be moving forward, the poise of the body will be moving. But what happens in the tango, differently compared to the swing dances, is that the poise of the body does not go past the toe. I'll show you an example. In the slow foxtrot or the waltz, the pitch of the body, which is the poise, is central. It's moving across the toe, and it will continue past the toe, which is called body flight. We're all aware in tango there is no body flight. So the poise is central between the feet, and the poise is moving with the moving leg. It's not overtaking it, because that is body flight. So it's connected to the center of the foot, and as the center moves with the leg, of course the poise will change, but not dramatically. In fact, after the first strike, as I've described before, it's central between the feet, and then the poise is pulled towards, again, the center of the foot, but no more. It's not further than the center of the foot. So just to illustrate that once more, we've got our posture, 4 blocks of weight, and our poise central between the feet. Through the action of the legs, the poise is moving across the foot, but central between the feet. It's pulled to the center of the foot. Okay. What I'd like to talk about now is centering of the body relative to the hold. Now, we have our 4 blocks of weight: head, shoulders, rib cage and hips, which we refer to many, many times because it's one of the fundamentals to dance. What must happen with these blocks of weight? They must rotate to create the body connection and the style. So my head will be rotated to the left, my shoulders will remain over the hips, however my center will be angled towards my lady, so I have the feeling of a spiral throughout my body to create the shape. So I'll illustrate again: shoulders over hips, head to the left, and center angled strongly towards the lady. Now, this angling of the center towards lady may increase depending on the figures and depending on the amount of energy coming in. If I was going into a step where I want a dramatic stop, I would put the center strongly towards lady. The reason for this in tango, relative to slow foxtrot and waltz and quick step, the reason it's different is that we have no sway. We have no sway to control the energy. So we only have the foot pressure and the usage of center to control this. What I'd like to do now, I'd like to bring my partner onto the floor, Anne, and I'd like to discuss the relative position of my body connected to Anne's, and then afterwards I'd like to ask her to describe her body position relative to mine. So Anne, would you come onto the floor, please? So I'd like to talk about my relative body position to Anne in the tango. So if I just take hold of hand here, we've talked about 4 blocks of weight, we've talked about the pitch of the body. First of all, make sure you're in your neutral position, the pitch is right across the center of the foot, and of course the lady will be the same. In fact, if your pitch is absolutely perfect, you should be able to take the other leg off the floor. If the pitch is too far forward, it'll be wrong. So the pitch is through the center of the foot. Now, coming into my tango position, I've got my shoulders over my hips, I've got my center angled towards lady, head out to the left. So if Anne would just like to come in. So we've got a strong connection, hand to center, and the other hand could cut across to make it. I'd like to ask Anne a question. Could you describe what you're doing in the tango relative to center and comparing that with what you would do, for example, in a swing dance?
Yes, well, I think it's very important to define the difference. Of course, the principle of rotating one's centre to partner is still the same. That will still maintain the same. But when we come to the tango, the position that I take relative to John will be slightly different. So, for example, in the swing dances, I will rotate my centre towards partner, and as I move towards him, my right hip bone will be in contact with the centre line of the man's body. That's the position I will take. Perhaps if John would just like to join me for a moment, we can do that together. So, if we just take a slight angle so we can see in the camera, my right hip bone will be moving to the centre line of his body. So that's the position that we will take. Now in the tango, because of the change in the position of the man's right arm, and because of the change in the position in my left arm, I feel that my body will be turned slightly more towards his right hip. So one could say that my left side is turned slightly more in towards him. So if we just do that together, I will still be moving the right hip towards the centre line of the man's body, but the difference here is I will have slightly more turn and I will be in more contact with the man's right hip with my left hip. So this would be a swing dance position, and this is the tango. And in this way, if we just now put our arms into position, John's right arm will fit perfectly to the contours of my back. If we just turn around and face the camera, John's right arm there fits perfectly to the contours of my back. I think it's an important time now to mention that, of course, every couple in ballroom dancing is slightly different. We all have different heights relative to each other, and we all have different weights. So I should like to point out that this position is perfect for John and I. But, however, we should also like you to understand that with each couple, you may have to make small adjustments in order to make your back fit the contours, for example, of your partner's arm, and vice versa. So there will always be slight adjustments in each individual case. But the basis of what we're trying to say is principle throughout. So you just have to really find your own position and make sure that it is comfortable to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, a little earlier, John was talking about the tango walk for the man, and I think it's a good time here for me to discuss the ladies' action. Well, first of all, I think we should try to define exactly what we mean by a walk in the tango. So I think it's a good chance now to move into the slow foxtrot and have a look at a particular position in the slow foxtrot that is relative to the tango. I'm sure you're all aware of a position that is commonly used today called a neutral position. And what we mean by a neutral position is when our shoulders and hips are directly in line with our feet and we have perfect posture. Now this sort of position, if I just turn around to the side, this sort of position we would have at the end of a swing movement in the slow foxtrot. So we will be in a position like this on the count of 4 and. So we've completed a swing, we're going through a neutral position and commencing a new swing. Now this position that we have called a neutral position is basically what we have in the tango. And we are in this position permanently. So we have an easy task here. Basically we find our position which is neutral, and all we have to do is to more or less maintain that throughout, using of course turn as well. But the action we will not have is the swing. So I think now if I show you perhaps a 3-step, I'll turn around and I'll show you what will happen from the hip to the foot, to show you how the swing and rise action will affect the usage of the hip. So I'll just for a moment, I'll just turn around, and if I commence a 3-step on my own, there we are in the neutral position, and what happens from here, from foot pressure, is that my hip will change its angle relative to the floor, and we're talking about the left hip now, and therefore I am caused, or the consequential action of that is to produce a very high instep, strong usage of ankle, and I'm moving towards the toe of my moving leg. So basically what's happening is as the hip is changing its angle to the floor, we'll call that sway, I am now having to use the toe or extreme ball of foot on my left foot. Now in the tango, if I turn around once again and dance some walks for you, you'll see that at this moment here, I have one walk. Now the hip will remain exactly the same, so there will be no change in my left hip relative to the floor. So I'll take my next step. So you can see basically the same thing is going to happen throughout. It might be a nice opportunity now if I ask John to join me on the floor. We'll dance for you firstly a 3-step, and I'd like you to concentrate on the hip area, and then we're going to dance a couple of tango walks for you so you can see the difference. So John, let's try a 3-step. So there's the neutral position and the hip now is changing. Okay, let's dance that again, concentrating on the feet now. So okay, and now we're going to dance the tango walks for you. Now you can see the hips are remaining in the same position. We'll just take that one more time, concentrating on the feet. Okay, so now I would like to dance for you the tango walks to music.
Well, that was the habanera, or it is commonly called the four-step change. What I'd like to do, I'd like to discuss the figure relative to atmosphere, which is music and styling. Okay, if I just dance the figure for you now, I'm commencing with 2 walks, walk, walk. As I'm going into the figure, what I want to feel is the awareness of my shoulders to create this action now, and feeling the styling of the head to create what we believe to be tango imagery and style. So I'll dance it from another angle now. Walk, walk. Quick, 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 quick. And very strong feeling of centered into lady while the shoulders rotating back and the head is also turned to the left. So you're creating this atmosphere of tango. One of the beauties of this step is that you can continue to walk, as we showed you in the video before, into the closed position. We're in a closed position and we stay in our closed position to continue with 2 walks or any closed position figure. What I'd like to do now, I'd like to ask Anne a question relative to styling particular figure, because it's a figure for gentleman and lady, and it's very important to talk about styling. So Anne, how would you actually style this figure?
Well, as you've just talked about the centres of the body, and we talked also in the waltz tape that it's very important that the styling of the upper body comes from the central area of the body. So perhaps if we just take hold and start this figure, and we can just see what the position we're going to have. So the 2 walks, I'm very conscious of maintaining my right hip bone to the centre of the man's body, and as we start to move, I'm also very aware that I'm on the inside of turn, so I should be rotating towards the centre of this turn. I'm rotating inwards towards the left, so our position now is still the same. Now what happens as we go into the habanera? Again, I'm on the inside of turn, so I must be conscious of placing my right foot underneath my right shoulder through the turn. And then as we go into this small side action to the close, and then we go into a forward step, I'm very aware now of allowing the man to create this turn, allow him to make the turn, and really just follow the amount of turn he's going to make. So it's a very small step with a turn. And of course, the styling of the upper body should be, of course, always with great taste. And I think it's quite important here that when the lady puts her arm into position around the man's, underneath the man's right arm, she's constantly aware of the position of her elbow relative to the position of her head. So through turning actions, it allows us to have some sort of focal point of when we're moving. So you can see there I'm really lining up, perhaps if we take the nose, in line with the elbow. If I just do that for you once again, through the turn, I'm consciously aware of my elbow throughout, and it does give a very clear styling, and it also helps me to give the correct amount of rotation towards my partner through centre.
Okay, so what we'd like to do now, we'd like to move on to our next figure in the foundation, the classical steps, which is the progressive link. So that was the two walks and a link, which we hope you recognised. What I'd like to talk about relative to this figure is the usage of the legs and feet. Now, I think there has been some confusion and there's many ideas on the position of the left foot going into the progressive link. Now, if we read the technique book, it suggests that the left foot is going forwards. And from this position, right foot is to side. And I believe that to be an excellent foot position. Some of the common errors that you actually see with the tango relative to this particular step is that some of the gentlemen actually turn the left foot out, which causes distortion in the body and all sorts of problem trying to create the energy for the link. What I believe to be an opportunity situation to create the energy within the step is the position of the left foot. Although it's going actually straight from here, what I like to do ever so slightly, when I say ever so slightly, it means a little, is to feel the foot is actually turning in slightly. The foot is actually turning in, but the right hip is actually counteracting that position. So I feel my shoulders and my hips are lined up whilst I'm actually connecting the foot in, which creates a kind of wind-up ready to release in the energy. So you've got the wind-up energy from here, ready to spring into the right foot position. Otherwise, the energy used from this can be the hand or the rotation of body, which I feel myself is not the correct or the most efficient source of energy for the particular figure. I feel the foot position relative to the hip position and shoulders, the wind-up position, a kind of torsion within the body, spring-loaded, ready to ignite into the electrifying link. The beauty of a link is the opportunity to show a different form of time, a different form of explosion of music, so you're feeling from this stealthily walks to the electrifying link. And when you watch top-class dancers, this is the kind of thing that is pleasing to see. What I'd like to do now, I'd like to move on to our next figure in the foundation figures, which of course is quite similar to the progressive link, and it's called the promenade link. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to dance that for you first with the music.
So we're now going to look at the ladies' action in the promenade link. Now this is a beautiful step with lovely characteristic movements that we need to show clarification. And what I would like to do here, if I just move backwards and commence in the promenade position, there's the first step on the right foot. I'm now going to move forward with the left foot, and it's this step really that contains the the main basis of this step. And it's important to have our blocks of weight lined up over the left foot, and this is where the turn comes in. So I'm going to rotate around the left foot, and the right foot will be held underneath the body without weight. Now what tends to happen here, and this is a common error that I see in lady dancers, is that they confuse the promenade link with a promenade lock. And we often see something that resembles a mixture of these two figures. So if I show you now what I see very often, we're looking at something like this, where we get a double action, and the movement of the feet is really not very clear. So I believe this to be quite a sin to dance an extra step here, and it means that you have to also, of course, put your body weight onto the right foot much too early. So I'm going to show you again now. We're going to close up on the feet, and I'd like to show it correctly. So I move from the right foot, again on the left foot turning, and I'm going to swivel, maintaining the foot underneath the body. And there's just one more thing that we should talk about here, is that after we have completed this promenade link, we're probably competitively going to be moving to something like a fall away, for example. And the turn of the last step of the promenade link is completed on the first step of the fall away. So if I just rotate around now, I will complete the turn of this promenade link on my first step of a fall away. And what I often see is from here, ladies overturn now on the left foot, as you can see, and they go into the fall away, and of course we will experience some problems there with the direction of movement, and probably pull our partners, and I'm sure they'll complain that we're heavy. So there's two major points there. One, make the foot and leg action very clear, which will of course assist your timing. And secondly, that the amount of turn that we produce in a promenade link also includes the next step of the figure that will follow.
So, the last of our figures in our foundation classical steps, as you probably recognised, was the chase. Now the chase has developed into many formats and has many developments. The version that we showed you was the original classical chase. Now what I'd like to talk to you about relative to the chase is the energy, where the energy is coming from. Now if I just dance it slowly, and I can explain what I'm talking about, it's relative to the turn and shoulder rotation, where we believe the energy is coming from. So I'll just dance it once more. So walk, walk, walk. Now we've got a wind-up position from here. Shoulders are rotating against center as the right foot is coming in. So we have this torsion type of action as the leg strikes in. Now from this position we're maintaining this ideal position here and turning from the shoulder to keep the position and unwinding at the end. I'll just show you from another angle here. I'll dance the chase for you once more, and slow, quick, 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 slow. So my general feeling here is that the right shoulder is back. Of course, it's not going to be twisted back, but I'm very aware of my right shoulder being back all the way through. To be able to clear the girl, I'm feeling the shoulders continuously moving. I'm feeling the energy source is coming from this torsion type of action of the shoulder rotating back. It also leads into a very good promenade position, how the shoulder actually coming back I'm actually gathering this promenade position. Also, it gives the figure a little bit of character, gives it a little bit of feeling, because at the end of this position here, as you've actually danced the chase, you can feel it's actually gathering, ready to strike, so you can put a little bit of expression and feeling into it. Now, that actually concludes the 5 figures that we've included under the heading of the fundamental foundation figures, the classical figures. What we'd like to do for you now, we'd like to move on to the advanced figures.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have just shown you a new development of the stalks. When this step was first danced in the 1960s, both the man and the lady maintained their head in promenade position throughout the step. And then in 1988, in the British Open Championships, John and I decided to add a new feature to this step to give it a characteristic action and flow. I decided after the first step of the promenade position to turn my head to the left and extend into a line. And John also decided he would turn his head to the right and show an action similar to that of a right lunge. So what we would like to do now is to firstly show you the original stalks danced in the 1960s, and then after that to show you the stalks that we danced in 1988.
As you've just seen, ladies and gentlemen, the classic original way of the stalks and the development that was made in the 80s. At the beginning of this section on advanced figures, you saw Anne and myself's brand new version of the stalks, with Anne putting a further development of the leg action in. We would like to discuss this particular figure in connection with the usage of legs and feet. We feel one of the most important categories for this particular figure. What I'd like to do is to go through the figure now, and I'd like to emphasize the usage of the feet in this particular figure. As you can see now, I'm stretching out the left foot for the fullness of the stalk. I'm moving through. The lady is developing her leg, so I'm maintaining my line at the back of the leg. She kicks through, and I make a small gesture here, and I'm pointing and stretching the leg as far as I can through. I'll just go from that point again. So onto the feet once more. I'm pointing and stretching the feet to create this long line as I'm going through, and we'll be developing above this, but I need this long line and stretch through. Now, with regard to the usage of the legs actually will be stretched. You'll feel from the actual foot as being stretched, but also the supporting leg will be stretched to create the line, and also the moving leg. So I'd just like to go on to the legs now. So we'd like to take a look at those. So from here, the supporting leg is connecting, and the moving leg is going through and is being stretched through, and is moving and is being stretched, and leaving the trailing leg as well being stretched. Now, in a way, effectively, this is the Latin American coming out in the tango, the strong usage of the supporting leg with the long line coming out of the figure. I'd like now just to dance this with my partner again, Anne, just to show you our development of the figure and the way that Anne actually is developing the usage of her leg. So you've just seen the back check into the contra point. What I'd like to talk about relative to these two figures is the energy and the atmosphere relative to styling and music. First of all, I'd like to talk about the back check. Now, what is a common fault here when I actually watch competitors dancing this and social dancers is that they tend to include their arms into the action. They tend to move their arms too much, trying to create the atmosphere and to create the feeling of the particular step. I believe the standing leg and reflecting through the body is the importance of this particular step. If I just go through it slowly from here, I'll just move backwards so I can illustrate it from here. As I'm going through from this position here to the right foot, you should be feeling from the foot to the action there, and not to include the arms into the action to make it too loose. So the energy is coming from the standing leg and reflecting through to the body. So from here, forward, walking action. Now you've got the turn of the body here to create this action and shaping out to the left side. From here, as the right foot goes back, we've got this checking action, hence the name, the back check. From here, we've got a shoulder rotation into this side action. Beginning of the tape, I was talking about the energy output and the usage of center to control. because we have no swing and sway, the usage of the center is a very important aspect here to control the energy that is going through, especially to control the girl who is going to go into a type of eros line, her leg going out. So it's a very strong activation from center through to lady from the supporting leg. So that's the source of energy to put into it and a source of energy to control it. The contrapoint is a very old figure, in fact. We were reading about it, about the figure being danced quite some time ago now, and we thought it would be nice to bring it back to trying to make it popular. And it seems to have been popular now. Lots of people try to dance this figure. It's an alternative, basically, for the contra-check. You all know the contra-check from here. It's got a similar kind of styling, except the weight is maintained on the right foot as the left foot is pointed in. Hence the name contra, like the contra-check, but point because the foot is pointing. A nice recovery to promenade position to create the sharpness. And there's been one or two other ideas with regard to the lady's head, that you can actually look at the lady's head. She can be nose to nose, or she can shape it back. And we feel very pleased, actually, that the figure is starting to become very popular. Lots of dancers like to dance this figure, and we thought we would put it on this videotape to try and teach it for you, so that you will also maybe have a chance to dance it. Now what I'd like to do, I'd like to go through the figure once more slowly relative to the energy output and the atmosphere. The atmosphere of the figure is very important. So from here once more, weight on the right foot driving forward, right foot cutting across, getting ready for this explosion to the left and also back to the right from here into this back contra-check, from here moving into this type of eros line where the lady's up and converting into the contra point. Tremendous energy required actually from the standing leg to convert from this step into this contra point and the recovery to promenade position. Tremendous strength required in the leg. Thank you very much. We would like to move on to our next figure in the advanced figures. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen the fall-away whisk, moving on into the back lock. Very popular figure for the tango, but we feel a very nice figure for the tango. We would like to discuss it relative to hold and body position. First of all, going into the actual fall-away whisk, what I'd like to talk about is my body position relative to the ladies and the usage of the standing leg to create the correct body position. So if I just walk back now and I dance this figure for you and discuss it as I'm going to dance it. So from this position here, we're both in a promenade position. We go forwards and forward again. Now what's very important here is the gentleman closes his body to the ladies by the usage of the right leg. he is actually closing his body back to the ladies. Another very important feature here is that he aligns up his shoulder over his hip, over his foot. He's completely over that left foot. It's a very common fault for gentlemen, especially right-handed gentlemen, not to get their weight directly over the left side. So, going to that figure once more. We're both in a promenade position here. The usage of the right leg will actually close his body back to the lady. So now we're in our closed position. We continue the closed position. Again, the usage of the right leg will open the lady to a promenade position. We repeat the process, the usage of the right leg, enabling the left side to cover the girl, so we're back into our normal closed position. We continue on here with pivots to the right, into a check, into this back lock. Now from here, we like to feel that there's a little bit of styling, a little bit of shape. I believe it's possibly the only figure that rise is acceptable, as we want to try to create this shaping action. It's actually a body rise, of course not a springing up of the feet, creating a rise and fall, but it's actually a gradual shaping through and stylization towards the girl. Very important here, again, the usage of the right side. We're coming into this not to turn back or turn away. Trying to recreate the atmosphere and the action of this step, most gentlemen seem to over-rotate the side. But I would actually say the two key figures for the whole of the step that we've danced, the two principles that you must abide by is the usage of the standing leg to cover to make sure your body completes the turn, and also that the shoulder, hip and foot are completely aligned up on the left-hand side. So it's the usage of the standing foot to come back to your normal neutral position and allowing the shoulder, hip and foot aligned up over one foot. If I just show you once more. So it's the usage of the right foot coming back to your neutral position, promenade position and closed. When Anne and myself practice, we practice this particular figure with this in mind. What we try to think of is there's only two body positions, open and closed. So if I illustrate it with Anne now, if she'd like just to come onto the floor. From here we have an open position. The usage of the right leg will close the man back to the lady. A normal closed position, very important. From here we rotate. Usage of the right foot again to open the lady. Right foot to close. Right foot to open, etc., etc. Very important for that to be aware of. Just like to move on to Anne now, and she can maybe discuss some of the ladies' actions within this particular amalgamation.
Yes, so the first point that I would like to make regarding this figure comes from the promenade position back to the closed position. So if I just face the camera now, so I'm moving forward into promenade position for slow and then onto the left foot for quick. Now it's at this moment that I have to concentrate on what exactly is happening to the man at this moment. And of course John has already described what he's going to be doing. He's going to be rotating around me. So my job here at this moment is to follow that turn through the upper part of my body, which in this case is going to be my hands and arms and shoulders. So I'll be turning from the top first, and then of course the shoulders, the hips rather, and the feet will be following. So what I must do is to maintain my position on my left foot, allowing turn to occur in the upper body, which will follow the man's action around me, and then from there I will be able to move forward on my right foot. So just do that once again. So we've got slow, quick. There's the left foot, turn the upper body and move forward into the pivoting action. So if we now take that from the pivots back into that position, I'm going to pivot now, and then of course as John described, once again comes the next pivot action into the fall away itself. I'm going into the fall away, and the same thing's going to occur again. I step forward onto the left foot, very small step here, and the shoulders and upper body are going to follow John's turn around me. So in essence here, we're looking at timing as well as action. So I have to time the movement of my body in a progressive way, meaning a forward way, and allow turn to occur first, turn through the upper body. So perhaps if John would like to join me now, we can dance that together and we can illustrate the two actions as a unit. So we're in promenade position, John turns around me, I allow him to do that by turning my upper body. We continue into the pivot, fall away position. Once again now the same thing's happening, I'm merely turning at that moment through the upper body. Okay. So this way we actually allow minimum amount of stress to move on to partner through posture, particularly because we are not driving our body weights towards each other with pressure. So we now come to the conclusion of this tape regarding the tango. We should like you to be aware when constructing your choreography that the music in the tango is the strongest of all the ballroom dances. And so it's very important that when you construct your dance patterns, they should all be in 2-bar couplets. This will enhance the dance and enable your student to obtain the satisfaction through dancing as one with the music. So that's all for now for the tango. So it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from her.